4 years, millions of viewers tuned in every week to watch the unforgettable characters of MASH. The show mixed humor with heartbreaking moments from the Korean War, creating a kind of television storytelling that audiences had rarely seen before. On screen, the cast looked like a tight-knit family, sharing laughter and facing chaos together. But behind the cameras, things weren't always so simple. Because one of the show's most beloved stars would later admit that joining the series came with pressures he never expected and moments when he quietly questioned whether the role had been worth it. To understand why, you have to go back to the early 1970s. When MASH premiered in 1972, few could have predicted how influential it would become. Set inside a mobile army surgical hospital during the Korean War, the series followed doctors and staff trying to survive the stress of wartime medicine. It balanced sharp comedy with deeply emotional storytelling, and over time it evolved into one of the most iconic television shows ever produced. Among the cast was Gary Burghoff, who played the gentle and quirky company clerk Radar O'Reilly. Radar was shy, loyal, and somehow always seemed to know when helicopters were arriving before anyone else could hear them. Audiences immediately fell in love with the character. Radar represented innocence in a place filled with war and uncertainty. His wide-eyed personality and kind heart made him one of the emotional anchors of the series. For many fans, he wasn't just a supporting character, he was the soul of the camp. But as the show's popularity exploded, life behind the scenes became more demanding than anyone had expected. Filming television in the 1970s was exhausting. Production schedules were long, and the emotional range of the show meant actors often had to jump between comedy and tragedy within the same day of filming. According to stories shared in later interviews, the workload began to take a toll on Burghoff. Those who worked on the set often described him as a dedicated performer who cared deeply about his work. But the constant filming schedule and growing fame made it harder for him to maintain a balance between his professional and personal life. And slowly, the pressure began to build. As the series became one of the highest-rated shows on television, expectations for the cast increased. Fans loved Radar, and producers understood how important the character was to the show's identity. Walking away from such a role was not a simple decision. Yet behind the scenes, Burghoff reportedly felt increasingly exhausted by the routine of television production. By the late 1970s, he began considering a major change. In 1979, after appearing in the series for several seasons, Burghoff made the difficult decision to leave the show. The writers created an emotional storyline explaining Radar's departure. In one memorable episode, Radar receives a hardship discharge after the death of his uncle, forcing him to return home to run the family farm. The farewell scenes were deeply emotional, not just for the characters on screen, but for viewers who had watched Radar grow throughout the series. Behind the scenes, the choice reflected Burghoff's desire to step away from the intense pace of television fame. In later interviews, he explained that the decision was not driven by conflict with his co-stars, but by the need to focus on family and personal well-being. Leaving such a successful show was risky. While the series continued for several more seasons, Burghoff chose a quieter path, appearing only occasionally in acting projects and spending more time outside the spotlight. Even so, his legacy within the show remained undeniable. Today, MASH is still remembered as one of television's greatest achievements. Its final episode became one of the most watched broadcasts in American television history, and its characters remain part of pop culture decades later. And for many fans, Radar O'Reilly is still one of the most beloved figures from that world. Sometimes the roles that bring actors the greatest fame also come with unexpected costs. For Gary Burghoff, joining the series created a character that audiences would never forget. But it also taught him that even the brightest success can come with sacrifices that only those behind the camera truly understand.